I think if I hear you call me Becky one more time, six-pack, I'm gonna pop your tops. All six of them.
Who are you?
Now, that reaction I had was not because this is a bad film. It's not. It's a very well done film for the purpose that it has. It's because this is one big fucking bummer of a movie, and that's the point. And that's what I think this film, this is a request from Eric. It's a PayPal request. So if you want to request pretty much any type of video, feel free to request it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. This is sort of the BBC, the UK's answer to The Day After. And The Day After, you have people like Steve Gutenberg and Jason Robards. Here, there's no one recognizable, which makes it feel that much more real. The director of the film makes it feel like a documentary, a down and dirty take on a nuclear war. What would happen if there was a nuclear war? As directed by Mick Jackson, I went, that name sounds so familiar. I went, oh shit. It's the director of Volcano, which I love Volcano. This is such a different, like, you see this, I'm like, this is the guy who made Volcano? And I fucking love, like, Volcano to me is a very fun, entertaining popcorn film. Yes, an idea that's ridiculous, but to me, you know what? Tommy Lee Jones, Don Cheadle, the effects, Steve David, like, I think a lot works in that film. I'm a big fan of Volcano. I reviewed it. Might have even reviewed it twice. I'll review it again if people want. I love Volcano. I think it's a very underrated popcorn film. But this, let me put it this way. If you want a deterrent on nuclear war, if you want people who are thinking of doing it, show them this movie. And I think that's why, you know, this film, even though it's very depressing, I'm just a guy that's not into depressing films, this works because that's the point. We want to tell people, yeah, of course, nuclear war is bad, but no, this is what could happen. Stop doing it, stop thinking of it, watch this. After watch it, you'd be like, yeah, fuck that shit. And the way it's done, where, to granted, you don't really get a sense of the characters. The most you get a sense of the characters is maybe this woman and this guy who are going to get married, and after shit happens, the guy kind of disappears, and the girl's left alone. She's pregnant, she gives birth, then you see what happens to that kid when she grows up. So, on one hand, there's not really any characters that I could talk about in this review. On the flip side, that kind of helps in the, I guess, the documentary real feel of it. The first half of the film is kind of this build-up of tension, this build-up, rising tension, where there's talks of a possible stuff happening with Russia and US and Iran and all this stuff going on, and people get more and more tense and more Like, what if this does happen? What could we do? What should we do? Oh, maybe it won't happen. Maybe, we'll avoid the problem. Maybe it will never happen. And then on TV, these little programs, which apparently these are real, these PSAs, these public service announcements of, in case an air attack or in case this happens, this version of the duck and cover that they had back in the day in the US, and the stuff they're saying, a la, if the body is more than 5 days old, bury it in a trench. And like that type of stuff being said matter-of-factly while these little animations happen, it makes it that much creepier. And the fact that these are real, like real PSAs in place, a nuclear war, like the potential precursor, makes it even that much more like creepy. Then when the air raid happens and there's tension in the street, the cinematography and the acting is very naturalistic, where it doesn't seem like acting, and the cinematography, it does feel as if it's a documentary, not a POV found footage like that type of, but it just has that feel and that tone of a matter-of-fact documentary. I thought a really nice touch is from time to time you have this computer teletype. It's silenced, you just hear this teletype, and it tells stuff like later on, possible epidemics, typhoid, dysentery. Or the teletype, what's another thing the teletype says? Firefighting, emergency services, unlikely. Fallout, imminent. This pops up from time to time, and it cuts out all the sound. You just see this. So the silence makes it a little bit more eerie. Then you cut to the one big bummer that's fucking happening, where when the blast hits and the electrical is gone and there's bright light and chaos and explosions and mushroom clouds and it's really fucking somber, and you see bodies burning, and you see the leftover bodies and charred corpses and rubble and charred remains, and this doesn't sugarcoat shit. I mean, this is a serious, stop it, stop thinking about it, use this, like I said, as a deterrent. If you want a fucking nuclear war, this would tell you why that's not. And also the aftermath, which goes on a while, because it's not going to stop this aftermath, because you got nuclear winter, the crops fucking up, so you can't get crops. There's no electrical service, so the doctors and hospitals, there's nothing they can do. They can barely do stuff because there's no power and a huge lack of supplies. Services can't get in there. The population is dwindling. People are starving. Lack of food. Okay, we'll use food as money. You work, you get food. They're all in dirty clothes and bandages and bloody bandages. And like I said, it doesn't really tell. It tells a story, but not in a way. It tells a story like a documentary, not as a narrative, where it's during this is happening. Also, there's this guy. Will he get married to this girl, or will these two meet, or will this woman meet up with her father and they're estranged? It doesn't really go that route. Again, it's very much matter of fact. This is what's happening. These people trying to get food. These hospitals are overrun. These people who are people in suit and ties, when the rescue services finally do arrive, they're too late because the people have suffocated. They've been entrapped so long in this rubble, they've suffocated for lack of oxygen. People getting sick because of all the rats and dead bodies. Cataracts. Why, there's no sunlight. When sunlight does return, it's UV. So cataracts, you can't grow the crops because of all the bullshit happening. And then the education being limited to the point that the kids, the younger people, are less fluid in talking. And in fact, it seems like they're reverting more into cavemen. Because how could you get through an education system if the population is dwindling and you're amidst all this rubble and there's nothing much left and all you have to worry about is survive? How can you really feel a lot of education throughout that when people are burned up and dirty and all this stuff? And then the clincher at the end, because they'll shoot to a decade later, where the mom dies, the kid has grown up a little bit. There's much more of a, again, caveman mentality. And then she gets pregnant, and then she gives birth to a stillborn. And before she screams, it freezes. Then the titles. Like I said, it's very grim. It's very creepy. And it's somber. It's sobering. And it was a lot of fun watching this, but that's the point. It's not supposed to be fun. Like this, sometimes I hear that, I go, what the fuck, it's a movie. No, here, I can understand that mentality. That if you want to tell someone, you can't put fun in a movie that you want to tell someone, this, don't fuck with nuclear war. It makes sense in this. I mean, yeah, I would go more towards a movie that has more of a narrative and maybe there's a speckle of hope. But on the flip side, it's worth having a movie that go, no, there's no sunshine of hope. If you do this, this could very well happen. And because of all the horror bullshit, people will give birth are stillborn. So that could be the end of humanity as we know it. So let's not go that route, shall we? So Threads, for the guy who going to direct Volcano, very different film I've seen of his. And I keep saying film, but it plays almost like a documentary. I would say this seems like one of those films that should be shown at schools when talking about nuclear war, like if that ever comes up, because it doesn't get gory like a Maniac, Tom Savini effects, not that type. It's just you see charred up remains and some people burning up, but nothing. You don't have like heads exploding. It's not that type of gore or any of that sort. It's just, which makes it feel that much more grimmer and that much more real. So yeah, Threads. Discern what's going on in the real world. This wasn't really a film I enjoyed watching, but at the same time, I'm glad I saw it at least once. It's worth. People who are at all serious about the topic, at all serious about this idea behind the film, it's a movie that I just really like. If you watch it, you not watch it for enjoyment, you not watch it for a real big story, like character driven narrative. So I can only assume you watch it just to go, what would happen if a nuclear war happened? Here you go. Because other than that, or again, the shows to higher ups don't do this shit. This is why. Because other than that, I don't really see why else you would go see this film. Or if it was a request. So, take that for what you will, man. I don't know what else I could say about it. See you guys later. Bye-bye.